Welcome to this sample audio clip, which comes from the series entitled Multi-Hull Conversations with Jim Brown. In this excerpt, Jim interviews John Harris of Chesapeake Lightcraft, which designs and sells both kits and plans for home builders. Here they discuss John's new Proa, which he has named Madness. In the full audio, John not only talks with Jim about what first attracted him to the Proa as a type of boat, but also its building process and a few of his Proa sailing experiences to date. They finish off the conversation by talking about how John is now preparing to help other sailors acquire a Proa if they want one, in addition to the many other types of traditional boat kits available through Chesapeake Lightcraft. You can find out how to acquire all of the multi-hull conversations in this series by visiting us on the web at www.outrigmedia.com.
This time we're speaking with John Harris, who is the proprietor at Chesapeake Lightcraft, CLC Boat Kits in Annapolis, Maryland. And the remarkable thing about John is that he has actually done something with a Proa. And hello, John, are you there?
Hi, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Hey, well, we really appreciate your coming on to talk about Proas. The funny thing is that you and I both know that my son is well versed in Proa know-how, but he has declined to speak with us in this conversation series. In fact, he doesn't really talk with much of anybody about his Proas.
Well, you know what I have to say first, Jim, is that I wish that I could board a time machine right now and fly back and visit with my teenage self and say, young John, one day you will know the Brown family, and talk to them on the phone. And I have actually been lucky enough to get to spend some time with your son Russ, he's an enormously talented person, and also the most humble person I've ever met in my life. And you know what he says? I just like sailing Proas, I'm not here to tell anybody how to build Proas or anything, and it's just part of his nature. And he's been generous enough to take me sailing a couple of times. It's helped kindle my own fire for the type.
Yeah, how did your interest in Proas begin, John?
It's because of Russ Brown.
Really?
I guess I was 16 years old, and into my mailbox came the issue of Wooden Boat Magazine that everybody knows so well, with Russell flying across the cover in his second Proa,
yeah.
It just I just got it right away. I mean, I instantly realized at that moment all the advantages, and it set about a fascination that a great many years later I still have, and have been able to act on occasionally over the years as a boat builder.
Well, John, the thing is that some of our subscribers probably don't really know what a Proa is, and it's hard to describe. Do you want to take a crack at a definition?
Yes. That's the thing about yachtsmen, and their eyes glaze over when we start talking about Proas. And a Proa is a sailing canoe. It's a narrow canoe, a big hull, and then it's too stable to stand up, so it has a little hull perched off to one side. So it's an outrigger sailing canoe. Now, the Proa that we're talking about right now is a sailing Proa, and it's peculiar because it has two bows. You have a rudder at either end, and when you tack, you change ends. And this is the moment where a we lose most people. And
yeah.
I think that proas have been very badly sold in the West, and the worst thing about it is that there's this fixation about how proas tack, and I think that we need to immediately discuss why bother, right? Why change bow for stern every time you tack? And the answer is very simple. It's that you get to leave half of the boat ashore. You only have to set the boat up to accept the forces of the wind from one side. And if you follow this down the lane a couple of bounces, then what you find is that a proa is the most sailboat bang for the buck in the world. You get all of this speed, great upwind performance. It's a lightly loaded structure, which makes it easy to build and thus inexpensive and quick to build. And they have just terrific sailing qualities, even in close quarters. And this had me buzzing for the longest time, and it wasn't until I was into my 20s that I finally got to build a proa and really give it a go. And some folks have seen this one. It's a little 20-footer called Mbuli. Mbuli is the Swahili word for madness or folly, and it was a 20-footer with a schooner rig, two tall masts, and Dick Newick-style rudders and trunks, and it sailed very well. And I think I did not know Russell Brown at this time, and I just got lucky that I got a lot of the details right, and that it went pretty well. I still use photos and stories about that 20-foot proa as a reliable laugh line at lectures I give, because while it did everything it was supposed to do, and when it actually called upon the boat to take me on adventures, it was a catastrophic failure. And just not the right boat. And the story is that it being the most interesting boat I had at the time, I entered it in the 2001 edition of the Water Tribe Everglades Challenge, which is this 300-mile race from St. Petersburg, Florida, to Key Largo. And it is difficult to conceive of a worse boat for that particular course than Mbuli, the Proa, which I took there in 2001. This was a boat that was meant for beach cruising on the Chesapeake. It was very shallow with the boards up, but it required around 40 inches to sail at all. I mean, it just has these rudders and trunks. And in the nature of these things, that all sailors who have tried to build a boat and get it ready for a race will nod in understanding. When I arrived at the race course in March of 2001, the boat was not finished. Among other things, the rudders I hadn't finished gluing them together. So the little cap on the bottom of the rudder that keeps the rudder shaft and the fixed part of the rudder in alignment was just screwed on, just with a couple of screws into the end grain of some spruce or something like that. And the day of the race dawned, and it was blowing something like 28 knots sustained with gusts up into the 30s, and this northwest wind was piling into Tampa Bay. And my strategy, if you could call it that, was to take as much of an offshore route as I could, only ducking inshore to visit the checkpoints. I think if I had thought that through at all, I would have realized that the boat wouldn't have made it anyway. But off we went, with the sails stowed, sailing under bare poles, just with two wing masts, doing 10 knots across Tampa Bay, and I missed the entrance to the ICW there near Bradenton, and hit a sandbar, and the little caps popped off the first one rudder. then I took one rudder out and put the other one in, because you can do that because it's a Proa, And then I broke that rudder, and then I broke the dagger board, and then we beached to stretch our heads, and then the boat, a great gust of wind picked up this lightweight Proa and threw it on its side and broke both booms, and at that point my buddy Craig and I observed that there was a bar about a block away, and that we would retire to the bar to. I did make the front page of the St. Petersburg Times with a broken Proa. So that's how I established myself in the world of Proas was through this really misbegotten and very, very, I should say, very short sailing adventure in the boat.
Well, that's what it takes, John. My gosh, when we started fooling around with the early trimarans in San Francisco back in the 1950s, we had one escapade after another like that. We finally learned to plan our sailings so that we could go out against the tide, so that when we broke something like the mast or the rudder, we could get back.